Today I'm going to discuss what the slope of the line is and how we can calculate it. Basically, the slope is our rise over our run. What does that mean exactly? The rise is the change in the height from one point to the next, and the run is the horizontal change in distance from one point to the next. So let's say we had these two lines. We have this line starting from 0, 1 and going up to 5, 7, 5. Okay? So I'm going to label this. So this would be 0, 1, 7, 5. And the way we label it is we always label our x-axis first, our x-coordinates, and then our y-coordinates. So we have 7, 5, 7, which is x, comes before y because this is x, and this is y. Okay. So how do we find our slope? Our slope is normally denoted by the letter m. Now, our rise, so it went from 1 to 5, so we're going to take 5 minus 1 over, and it went from 0 to 7. So we're going to take 7 minus 0. That gives me 4 over 7. That is my slope. What about this one? Let's say this one starts at let's say this one starts at 8 and ends at 2. So this would be 5, 2, and this would be 0. Again, it starts from 0. Your x-coordinate is 0 and your y-coordinate is 8. So 0, 8. Your x-coordinate is 5 and your y-coordinate is 2. So in this case, our slope is our change, which is 8 minus 2 over 0 minus 5, which gives me 6 over negative 5. Now, this is a negative slope, as you can see, because it's a downward slope. It goes from high to low versus the blue one, which goes from low to high. So this is a positive slope, and this is a negative slope. In algebraic terms, the slope of the line m can be denoted by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's try this question. Find the slope of the line given 3, 9, and 2, 8. So, if you're new to finding the slope, what I recommend my students do is we label what our x1, y1, x2, y2 are. So it doesn't matter which way we do it, whether this is x1, y1 or x2, y2. But I'm just going to put this as my x2, and this is my y2. This is my x1, and this would be my y1. Just because this came first, I label it 1, and this came second, I 2. Okay? Helps you keep track of which is x1 and y1. So we have slope equals, now, what's our y2? Our y2 is 8 minus y1, which is 9, over x2, which is 2, minus my 1, which is 3. Then I can simplify. 8 minus 9 gives me negative 2, minus 3 gives me negative 1 as well. Now, a negative divided by negative gives me a positive. With negative numbers, I have a video on negative numbers review. So in this case, our slope is 1. So I want to bring to attention what a graph with a slope of 1 might look like. It looks something like the red line or the blue line. As you can see, your rise is, if we look at the red line, 1 over 1, which is 1 in this case. From 2 to 4 is 2 units. So 1, 2 over 1, 2. Now 2 over 2 is also 1. So this slope of 1 looks like. Okay, now let's try another problem. This time with some coordinates x1, y1, and x2. I'm going to call this x1. Then this is our y1. My x2 would be this one. And my y2 would be the negative 1. So again, so my slope m would be y2, which is negative 1, minus y1. Now it's a negative 3. Now there's a double negative there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Over x2, which is negative 2, minus x1, which is 7. So I have negative 1. Now, negative times a negative is a double negative, so that gives us a positive 3 over negative 2 minus negative 7 gives me a negative 9. That gives me 3 minus 1 is 2. over, so our slope in this case is -2/9. Now I want to iterate that because we have a negative slope, your line is going to look something like that. It's going to be a downward slope versus our earlier example, which was a positive number, and it's going to be an upward slope. So on a graph, this is what it looks like. It's a downward slope, and from this point it went down 2 units over 9 units, and that's how we get the -2/9. Here's another example. Again, let's label our x1, y1, x2, y2. So this is my x1, my 5 is my y1, this 8 is x2, and the -2 is y2. So we have my slope, which is m, is y2. y2 is -2 minus my y1, which in this case is 5, over x2, which is 8, minus x1, which also happens to be 8. Now that gives me -2 minus 5 gives me -7/0. But anything that is divided by 0 is undefined. So what does that look like on a graph? On the graph, an undefined line is actually a vertical line as shown. In this case, this is what the graph would have looked like for the points that ran through 8, 5, which is that point there, 8, 5, and 8, -2, which is somewhere there. So this would be the line that passes through those 2 points with an undefined slope. So this would be another slightly different graph from the rest. Again, I'm going to label my x and y. So this is x1, 5 is y1, -1 is my x2, and again my 5 is y2. So our slope is y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is also 5, over x2, which is -1, minus my x1, which is 4. Now 5 minus 5 gives me 0. -1 minus 4 gives me -5, which gives me 0. What does a line with a 0 slope look like? In this case, a graph with a slope of 0 is a horizontal line because there is no rise in this case. So there's only a run. And in this case, it looks like this because it passes through 4, 5, and -1, 5. Finally, I want to bring to your attention what the different slopes will look like. So in our first scenario, we had a slope of 1, which was rise of 1 over 1. That's an upward slope. Then we had a slope of -2/9, which is a downward slope that looks something like that. And then we had an infinite slope of, I believe, was that which went through our x equals 8 and went vertically infinitely. And then we had our slope of 0, which went through our y equals 5, I believe, that looks like that. So what I want to bring to your attention is, if you have a slope that has a much greater number, say 5, you see that the slope becomes much steeper because your rise went up to 5/1 versus the 1/1. Comparatively, if you have a fractional slope, say 1/2, you see now your slope is more gentle versus your first slope of 1 or more, because your rise is now 1 and your run is 2. So the slope becomes more and more gentle the smaller your number is, and the slope becomes steeper the bigger your number is. In my next videos, I will show you how we apply the slope of the lines to finding the equation of the lines and how to graph them in various forms. I'm going to show you the point slope form, as well as the slope intercept form, as well as the standard form of lines. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I also offer online tutoring services, as well as have notes, lessons, and worksheets for sale. And I also have a Patreon account if you'd like to support my work that way. Links down below. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you found this lesson helpful.